Welcome back. You're watching Nation Tonight. The India-US Artificial Intelligence Task Force was launched today by the US-India Business Council. It is aimed at aligning the leadership of India and United States in the realm of artificial intelligence. Basically, the task force will advance AI and the policies around it in both the countries. Now, it is being seen as a game changer, especially needed amid the rapidly evolving landscape of artificial intelligence and tech. And joining me on the broadcast tonight is Jacob Gullish, USIBC Executive Director for Policy and Digital Economy, to help us understand what this means for both the countries. Jacob, good evening. Thank you very much for speaking with Mirror. Now, first of all, let me ask you, by trying to understand basically what the aims of this AI task force are.
Sure. Well, firstly, thank you for your time and having me here today. As you know, the two governments are really focused on critical and emerging technologies right now. And there's really no technology that is, in terms of future thinking about where the countries go about artificial intelligence. So as the two countries both think about artificial intelligence in terms of a governance point of view, but also the technology development and usage, it's really critical that we work together. And why is that? Well, the United States and India actually have a very unique synergistic relationship when it comes to technology. While some might say that we're actually at different phases, it's actually not true, because in reality, much of the American technology is being developed in India for American companies, for Indian users, for the global society writ large. And so since it's a new topic and so much of the technology is being developed in India and used around the world, it's really important that the two countries align as we move forward and starting to think about this. So what does that really mean? You have some basic fundamental governance issues about AI. And firstly, AI is not one thing. It's a collection of different technologies. And so one AI technology or application might be very sensitive and another might be very social in nature. And we need to find the right risk-based mechanism to drive utility and trust in all of these applications writ large. And so we have to come together with initial principles of what we believe in. Most of these are going to be at a higher level. And then as the technologies are deployed, you are going to have regulation, but typically that regulation will be more focused on what the application is. So an AI energy application might be regulated and monitored in the way that other IT or other services in the energy sector are being reviewed by government overall. So as this happens globally, it's really important that the United States and India, given the importance of our strategic technology relationship, are aligned on AI. And that's exactly what our effort's going to try to do over the next coming years.
You know, Jacob, it's interesting that you say that there are no differences when we talk about tech and innovation in India and the United States. But that's what my next question was to you. The fact that both the countries are at very different stages and levels when we talk about tech innovation, the digital penetration, the artificial intelligence growth, that is very different in both the countries. And therefore, how does the task force plan to really align the differences and challenges that arise out of those differences?
Yeah, no, great question. Thank you. So first, in the Indian technology ecosystem has really matured in the last 5, 10, 15 years. And so where in the past, there might have been distinct differences where American venture capital would utilize Indian skill sets at scale to develop technology to then sell back to the American market. That doesn't really hold true anymore. If you look at the VC communities, there's investment on both sides. Indian VCs are investing in American AI, and American VCs are investing in Indian AI. There's a maturity in the commercial landscape, where maybe in the past it was more American or international companies in India doing R&D, but now certainly there's a huge number of Indian companies that are developing that same R&D, and some of them actually have very large footprints in the United States. And then in terms of utility of how people use it, clearly the Indian community and economy has really transformed itself from a digital point of view. And so overall, you really see this coming together of common mature countries developing this new technology. So what do we need to do in terms of aligning? So one is we need to build trust around AI systems. There's a lot of, I don't want to say confusion, but AI is a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And so having some sort of common understanding of what these different applications look like in a practical sense in different sectors using different solutions or different outcomes, we need to sort of understand that collectively. The second thing that's really important is people. When you look at AI and look at a community of interest, yes, there is an emerging AI community of interest, but it's critical that that community of interest has a nexus that's Indian American. And so one of the things that we want to do is actually create this common ecosystem of people that are looking at AI in the two countries from both a governance, from a technology development, but also a trusted and safe usage point of view. Then we need to sort of align on different regulations, for example. And so cross-border data is really important in this. Cybersecurity is important in this. Privacy rules, consumer protection. I could go down the laundry list, but it's important that we have some commonalities in our frameworks. Of course, regulation's never going to be exactly the same, but we need to have similarities so that an AI application that has tremendous benefit in one country can be applied in the other without major obstacles to its development or implementation. Those are the few of the things that we want to do in
Jacob,
the near
since
term.
we're talking about technology and artificial intelligence, it is obvious that data is crucial, and we talk about data being significant and being important, the data security being very significant within the country. But when it happens between two countries, it becomes all the more significant. Help us understand how the task force will be maneuvering its way through cross-border data.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the issues of cross-border data and privacy protection, there's a clear channel to manage some of those. And of course, AI is going to throw, a few, wild cards in there that we're going to need to manage. And that's going to be based on different applications that emerge over time. And we don't exactly know when and where those will emerge. But if you look at the privacy of protecting Indian consumers and cross-border data, India's come out with a new law. We're looking forward to its implementation. It's a really solid law. It really is risk-based. It looks at different sector types of regulation, managing and not over-regulating these sorts of issues. I'm not particularly concerned about the cross-border data issues. I actually think we've settled that. The United States has robust privacy laws that allow cross-border data flows. India has a new law and will be developing that. And we need to develop the regulatory alignment, which is actually a lot of relationships. And so something we're doing on that piece is we'd love to work with Indian regulators as they develop capabilities, as they start issuing rules. We'll be very involved in that. But it's a much larger issue than AI. Now, AI does need a lot of data, right? And that's what gives it its value. If you take a healthcare solution, the more data in, the better data out, right? And so making sure that we are looking at those solution sets are really important. And that's where there's this sort of risk-based incremental thinking that we think needs to be looked at in terms of governance, because the way that you may think about healthcare data, whether it's personalized or anonymous, will be different. And that also will be different than the way certain data about how renewable energy might be used, right, in terms of weather forecasting and things of that nature. And each of those are going to be different than security technology, is going to be different than financial technologies, right? And that nuance is really critical as this develops. And that's why our task force is going to look at the general principles, but we're also going to hive it out and look at various sector activities as well.
On that note, Jacob, let me also then ask you my last question. The fact that this sort of task force also involves the public-private partnership, and we know that it can have its own complexities and challenge. How does the task force plan to strategize smooth operations and make its way through this kind of a partnership in AI?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, at the end of the day, we all need to trust this technology. We all want to leverage it. It needs to be ethically, used. And of course, there is going to need to be some regulation to make sure that the bad actors are contained. Now, in terms of R&D, it's going to come from a variety of different factors, and these different groups actually need to work together, right? You have the government to government role of foundational technology and funding academia and national labs. That's an area where the United States and India have made incredible progress. One of the open secrets about the Initiative for Critical and Emerging Technology is that we're starting to align our research activities from a government funding point of view. And that's getting investigators together, getting researchers together, understanding the problem sets, and working it. Then there's another piece that is really critical, and that is industry. And industry is going to create AI applications that have presumably economic values, but also have to have that same trust and ethical utility, right? And then finally, there's a multilateral piece of this. And I would be remiss if I didn't reference that India has really taken a very positive role internationally in governance, particularly with the presidency around an initiative called the GPAY, the Global Partnership for Artificial Intelligence. It manages a movement of 30 different countries. It's multi-stakeholder in nature. There was a great summit last year, and India is looking to do more. And that sort of role is also important because it provides the baseline governance and principles that ultimately are going to need to guide all this R&D and ultimately commercialization and usage.
All right, Jacob, thank you very much for joining us on Mirror Now and sharing your thoughts and helping us understand how the India-US AI task force will benefit both the countries as well as the sector of artificial intelligence. Thank you.